Heading back home now, wealthy Australians are closely watching the political wrangling over Labor's proposal to increase tax on super balances exceeding $3 million. The plan to double the levy from 15% to 30%. It would affect only about 80,000 Australians.
That's right, but there's been a lot of speculation on the future impact of the tax change, particularly on younger Aussies. Well, we're now getting into this this morning with economist and executive director of the Australia Institute, Richard Dennis. Richard, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us. Now, how would you briefly, and I realise super is a huge topic, but how would you briefly describe the state of Australia's superannuation scheme right now?
Oh, the superannuation scheme in Australia is fantastic if you've got millions of dollars. I mean, there is no better place in the world to park your money than in the Australian superannuation system because we are so generous to very wealthy Australians with the tax breaks we're talking about. So what we've seen in recent years is people who own farms, people who own businesses, people who own anything they can trying to get their millions and millions of dollars into their so-called self-managed super fund, because effectively once they can get it into there, they pay little or no tax. So to be clear, the changes the government's proposing only affect people with more than $3 million in super. And just so that people understand, the vast majority of Australians have got less than $200,000 worth of super. And indeed, women have got a lot less than men. So most people out there watching today will have less than 200,000 in super, but we're having this entire kind of media obsession about a small increase in the amount of tax that will be paid by people with more than 15 times that amount, people with 3 million in super.
Yeah, I think there's a few Australians who kind of feel, well, I don't really feel sorry for the wealthy if they have to pay 30% on their 30% tax on their super. But there are some concerns, though, particularly for younger or future generations and younger Australians, because this tax, or this proposal, is not indexed, which means that it won't be adjusted for inflation. Now, I read this morning on the AFR reporting that this could actually affect more than 500,000 members of the current workforce, and this is almost half of them are under the age of 30 at the moment. So what are your concerns about the fact that it's not indexed?
I have no concerns at all. I mean, if someone left school at 18 and started work on the average income, the average full-time income, from 18 and worked full-time until they were 65, they still wouldn't get to $3 million in super. So talk about a storm in a teacup. On the one hand, most Australians will still never get, even someone leaving school today, is not going to get anywhere near $3 million in super. But also this fear campaign is based on the idea that no government ever in the next 20 years will ever come and look at some of these thresholds. So there's lots of thresholds in our tax system that aren't indexed, and every now and then governments come along and change them as the needs demand, as the circumstances allow. So this is just trying to make young people who can't afford a house feel sorry for old people with $3 million in super.
Right. But what about the fact that the Greens are now pushing for this threshold to be reduced from 3 million to 2 million? Wouldn't that affect more people? And again, you know, if it's not indexed, future generations will be affected as well.
Look, again, remember I said the vast majority of Australians have got less than $200,000 in super?
Yeah.
200,000. So even if the threshold was changed from 3 million to 2 million, we'd still be talking about an amount that's 10 times more than half the people watching today have got. Now, whether the government goes for the $2 million option or the $3 million option, well, the Senate will sort that out. But again, let's be clear, we're talking about figures that are 10 times what most Australians have got. And the idea that we need to protect people with $2 or $3 million to help young people and future generations, well, if we want to help young people and future generations, I'd suggest worrying about climate change or worrying about housing would be a much better way to help young people than tax cuts or tax breaks for people with $3 or $2 million in super.
All right. There are other criticisms over this proposal as well in relation to taxing unrealised gains. But, you know, I was reading about this and I thought, well, we already have this sort of a tax in place anyway. If we talk about, you know, land tax, we talk about council rates as well.
That's right. This panic, we can't tax unrealised gains, that is assets that are going up in value that haven't been sold yet. Again, there's this hysteria saying we can't start this precedent. Well, anyone that pays council rates, when the price of your land goes up, your rates go up. This is not a new phenomena. But also anyone that's on the age pension. Let's think about low-income earners for once. There's a whole bunch of low-income earners out there, people with much smaller super balances than we're talking about. Your eligibility for the age pension, the amount of age pension you get is affected if your shares go up in value. So we already have a system with land tax, with rates and the age pension where if the value of an asset goes up, you either get less income or pay a bit more tax. This is not unprecedented. What's unprecedented is very high income earners making this amount of noise to protect a tax break.
All right. Richard, listen, thank you so much for being with us this morning. We really appreciate you sharing your insights with us this morning. Economist and Executive Director of the Australia Institute, Richard Dennis there.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to keep up to date with all our latest research and work, sign up to our newsletter. Delivered every fortnight, it includes behind-the-scenes updates from Richard Dennis, an exclusive cartoon from Judy Horacek, details for our upcoming events and webinars, as well as explainers, graphs, and not to mention the latest cutting-edge research and analysis from the team here on the key issues that are facing Australia. Click the button on your screen to check it out.